Hello guys, welcome to another episode of DJ versus Food Home Cooking. Now I'm going to do a pasta bake today. It's a good family recipe. It's one I've made up myself using techniques that are used in a number of recipes. Very easy to do. It's as simple or as complicated as you want to make it, depending on what you want to do. If you want to use leftovers from your fridge, if you want to have a look around the cupboard and see what you've got, some leftover vegetables, really it's totally down to you on how sophisticated you want to do it. I think this recipe is good enough to use it at a dinner party. You could serve it with a bowl of salad and some garlic bread or something like that, or to serve up to your kids when they've got a few friends around. Now it's in a couple of different parts. It's very simple, a traditional tomato sauce over pasta with a cheese topping. Very, very simple. But you can add bits and bobs to just dress it up a little bit to make it more authentic and more tasty. Anyway, hope you enjoy it. This is where we start. The first part of the recipe is the tomato or the tomato sauce, and what the French tend to call the holy trinity of cooking, carrot, celery and onion, is the base. In this case, because I had some in the fridge. Now you don't have to do this at all. A jar of spaghetti sauce would suffice. You could do that. There's some really good ones out there, but this is a cooking video, so I better do some cooking. We're going to throw that in the pan and saute it down. I'm also going to cut up a couple of cloves of garlic and throw that in there, but a few garlic granules would suffice. So I've started warming the pan. We're going to add a little bit of oil. In this case it's rapeseed oil, but olive oil would be good. Virgin olive oil would be fantastic. Rapeseed oil is something that we started cooking a lot in the UK with now. It's very good for you, and as long as you don't use too much of it, it's not that fattening. So let's get in that holy trinity: onions, carrots and celery. You can omit, that's me dropping the knife, you can omit anything that you're not that keen on if you didn't like celery, but some people don't like it raw but are quite keen on it once it's cooked, and it's really just for flavour at this point. Now I'm going to leave the garlic out just for a second and just let it start to take. This is now being sautéed for a couple of minutes just to start making the onions translucent. We're not quite there yet because the celery and the carrot does take a little bit longer to soften, but at this point I'm going to add the garlic. Now a lot of recipes say throw the garlic in at the beginning, but you can burn it and it's not that great when you do that. So a couple of minutes in, garlic's added, and I've been out in the garden and picked a couple of bay leaves. Now if you haven't got any bay leaves, don't worry. This really is a recipe for what you've got, or if you're trying to save some money, you don't have to go out and buy a load of ingredients. So we'll throw that in. Now what you could also put in this is perhaps some mixed herbs, some dried herbs. That would do the job well. You could chop some basil and throw it in at this stage, and then add some a little bit near the end. That would give it a good basil flavour. Now just as they're salting away, I'm preparing just a few mushrooms. Again, if you had some in your fridge, a few left, the amount is totally up to you. I'm using one yellow pepper, but it could be a red or a green pepper. It's a red sauce, so I thought a yellow pepper would be nice. And the mushrooms, I've got chestnut mushrooms, but again button mushrooms or anything you've got would be great. The carrots are starting to soften up, the celery also, and the onions are translucent. So what I'm going to do, you could actually complete this in another pan, but to save washing up, I'm going to take this out. Let's just move the camera so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to, I don't know how much you can see of that, but you'll see in a moment. Just put that onto one side while we fry up the mushrooms, and the peppers can go in at the same time. Now the reason I'm doing this separately really is just so that the larger pieces of pepper and mushrooms are about, I don't know, a centimetre square, half an inch square, will cook through, and then in a moment I will add the rest of it back into the pan. Again, what I want to do is soften all this up. So basically it's cooked really, because once it's in the sauce it's just going to simmer for a little bit. Now, what you can do is make this totally vegetarian. This may be it. or you may want to add some courgettes, aubergine, eggplant, you know, anything that you like really. Mange too, sweet pea would be great. But what I'm going to do is just whip together some meatballs out of some minced beef. So to do that and cook them through first, again I could do that in a separate frying pan, but I'm going to empty this back out and then fry them off in this pan. Empty that, the peppers and the mushrooms just into the same dish as the Holy Trinity of vegetables that I fried up before. There we go. And I've pre-moulded some meatballs, and this is just salt and pepper and some minced beef. Now, if you were following religious dietary needs, you could use halal meat or kosher meat, whatever you need to do. As I said, you could keep it vegetarian. You could use any meat, pork, lamb, chicken, turkey mince, whatever. Anyway, we're just going to throw no extra fat. We're going to throw these in and brown them off. I've been browning these off on a high heat for about 5 minutes. I've now turned it down to a medium heat, and we're going to reintroduce the vegetables that we cooked earlier on. Nice and easy. We're going to warm this back up to temperature again, and then we're going to add the tomatoes. Now, I really do think that perhaps a couple of tins of chopped tomatoes, you can buy them with herbs in, with garlic in, to give it a bit more flavour would be great, or just plain chopped tomatoes with some dried herbs in, again, fantastic. But I'm really keen, you may have seen before, on, it happens to be Sainsbury's, but you can get them anywhere, Passata. This happens to have some basil in it, or basil, and we're going to use this. But this is about 700 grams. I don't know how that translates, but that's going to be about right. So a couple of cans of sauce is going to work out about right for this recipe. And it's going to feed about 4 people. But what's nice is you haven't got to worry too much. Almost making it up as you go along. So we're going to add that in now. I always put a bit of water in here just to rinse it out and get some more of the juice. And I'm going to let that simmer for about half an hour, just to finally cook everything in, and the sauce will get into the meat, and it guarantees that the meatballs will be cooked through. Now that would be great just served over spaghetti or pasta of your choice. So really that's one easy meal, but we can keep going, and we're going to do this pasta bake. This has been cooking. I've had some hot water in a big pan on the stove, getting hotter and hotter. Want it at boiling point because we're going to add our pasta. Now this is about 500 grams, a standard bag of pasta. I find that enough really for about 4 people. Now the chefs really say get the best pasta you can afford. Pasta's cheap anyway, so whether you're spending $1 or 50 cents, really it doesn't make a lot of difference. Here in the UK this was about 90 pence, and it's proper Italian pasta. This one is the tortiglione. My Italian is not great, but it's almost like big macaroni. But you could use the pasta of your choice. It really doesn't matter. Just standard macaroni would be good, whole wheat pasta, but it is the dried variety. For cooking the pasta, just follow the instructions on the back. It's pretty straightforward. Boiling water. I've salted it, but you don't have to. So just add it to the boiling water. I'll leave it for a couple of minutes, then stir, and in this case it takes about 12 minutes. Now I like my pasta al dente, so it's slightly firmer than I hate it when it goes really sloppy, especially in a bake. It's not wonderful.